Gary in Devon, England writes to me and he says, I never believed that speakers needed to be burned in. At least not to any extent that would affect their audible performance. Yes, new drivers, well, they may be a little bit stiff at the cone to driver anchor point, but surely that couldn't make a difference to how they sound. It is a logical conclusion, therefore, that the listener is just adjusting their ears rather than waiting for any physical characteristics of the speaker to be realized. However, about a couple of years ago, I was looking for some new speakers for my Accuphase E450, and although I love the quad ESLs with this amp, the wife, there she is, the wife didn't like their size and positioning constraints. In my view, they are a work of art in every sense. Well, you go argue that up with your wife. But anyway, so I did some research and settled on a pair of Focal Utopia Diablos. They weren't burnt in and at first sounded quite shrill at the top end, as Focals can. And sometimes I wonder why I even kept them, but the mid-range was so sweet and the lows so tight that I thought I'd persevere. After many, many hours of running, they have developed into a wonderful speaker that is well driven by the amps. Or have they? Is it me that broke in or the speakers? Great question. And as always, there isn't a clear answer because your initial assumption was incorrect. Speakers do break in, and they sound very different after 24 to 48 hours of play. The surrounds have to get exercised and move, especially in the woofers, the diaphragms in the mid-ranges and the tweeters. All of that makes a huge difference, really big sonic difference. So your first thoughts were incorrect. It really does matter. You really do need to break in speakers. And then there is the aspect of breaking you in. Now, I don't know, I wasn't there to see if you actually rearranged it. Focals are very sensitive and very needy when it comes to setup. Setup is really important with Focals. They've got a razor-thin tweeter that just, whoo! I mean, you got to get it right. So maybe you were tweaking in the meantime. Maybe you were shuffling around your seating position. I don't know, changing the room. But let's say that you weren't. After a week, let's call it a week, maybe 2 weeks, and the speakers have now settled in, they've burned in, they've done what they needed to do. Everything is kind of working in good harmony, synergy together. The rest of it is you breaking in, for sure. You will find yourself not playing certain records because they don't sound good anymore. You'll find yourself adjusting volume levels unlike where you were before, but now you're going to be at a different level, and your ears have adjusted to that sound. I have a story that I tell that I probably have shared here before. The experience that I had at a reviewer's house, one of the first times I heard a horn system. And I walked into the reviewer's room. He put on some piano music, and it was very dynamic, and it was very lively, but it sounded nothing like a piano. I was so used to the sound of a piano from hearing pianos and from hearing a more natural rendition on my speakers. And I walk in, and here's this sort of, I don't know, horns just drive me crazy. Not a fan. There are exceptions, for sure. But in any case, after 15 minutes, 20 minutes of listening, I adjusted to that sound. Now the piano was sounding natural to me. It still sounded a little horny, but it was a natural sound. I adjusted to it. Look, stereo systems and loudspeakers are so far away from real sound that we all adjust to them. And our minds make up for it. It's like getting used to a certain smell, to a certain taste. After a while, you adjust to it, and speakers are no different. So I think the answer is twofold. Yes, burn-in helped, and yes, you adjusted to the speakers, which isn't a bad thing, since there ain't no perfect speaker. Nothing even close. All right. Thanks for the question. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.